Coming up next, ladies and gentlemen, the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Super Show. We look back at AEW All Out from this past weekend on pay-per-view, Dynamite from last night, NXT from Tuesday night, and also Impact Wrestling. We are live all over the world here on Fight TV. Thank you for joining us, and we're looking for your comments across social media. Log on now, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. We'll share your comments live on air. The Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Super Show starts right now. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Super Show. Damian Nelson coming to you here from the PWR studios. I want to thank you for joining us wherever you are all around the world here live on Fight TV. That's F-I-T-E, Fight TV. What was that?
What the hell?
Dave, put your dog away. I didn't know
First of all,
you barked.
You know, that's not Alf. Not at all. Not a chance. I mean, you know, this is a dog-free house. You know.
So
that.
you wanted to cut my intro short. You wanted to introduce yourself. So I'm going to let you do that. Go right ahead. Since you gotta step up and step in and interrupt me, go right ahead.
No. I didn't interrupt anything. It was the dog. I mean, I saw how you jumped. Also, I know. Which is amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, David Octavius and Tiberius, the alleged backyard one-time knockout straight edge hardcore Hall of Famer hero. How are you, David?
You know what? I feel good. You, my friend, Manscaped obviously has you feeling pretty ballsy because you're wearing white after Labor Day. You know what I mean?
Wait, I thought you started wearing white on Labor Day.
No, you're not supposed to. But hey, it works for you. It brings out the green in your eyes, and it's fantastic.
Who said you can't wear white after Labor Day?
Shane, isn't that like an unwritten superhero rule?
Hold on, he can't talk yet. Ladies and gentlemen, the star of the show, please join me in welcoming here to the Primetime Super Show, the Hurricane, Shane Helms. How are you, Shane O'Mac?
I'm doing good. No, I'm not Shane O'Mac. That's the other guy. That's the other guy. He already took my name once, so I can't take his. But you look good in white, man. I don't know all about that Labor Day shit, man. You look good. You look like you might be a villain, though. Maybe
Kingpin.
You know, not quite Kingpin, more of the Riddler a little bit. Got a Riddler action going on, you know. But it's good. It fits. I like it. Wear that shit, son. Wear it.
So here's my question. Thank you very much for that, Shane. That's why you're on this broadcast, the star of this broadcast, because you bring a voice of reason. So in the DC universe, you've got a Riddler and a Joker, right?
Yep.
Can someone walk me through the difference between the two?
One tells riddles, one tells jokes.
But aren't a riddle and a joke sort of similar?
No.
The spelling is completely different.
Yeah.
Okay, then Shane.
And the Joker is insane. The Riddler is just an annoyance.
How many Riddlers have there been?
One, just one. You talking about in the movies?
Yes.
Just Jim Carrey, I believe. But I think there's going to be one in the new Batman, assuming that it gets back under production. They halted it because dude got the COVID. Batman.
That's the Batman, right?
Yeah. So back into production. But just Jim Carrey, as far as I know. I mean, unless you harken way back to the 60s Batman. I can't remember. I don't know what that guy's name was. But
he was fantastic, whatever his name was.
Yeah.
So in order to fully understand, I want to welcome everybody joining us on social as well. Dave, I'd like you to tell me a riddle. And Shane, I'd like you to tell the audience a joke. I'll give you guys a moment to figure out what your riddle and your joke will be. But I want to welcome everybody watching us across our social media channels, including on YouTube, where we are live, on Facebook, where we are live, and also on Twitter. Actually, Periscope, to be more precise, where we are live as well. I want to welcome some of you joining us on our channels. Paul Andrews on Facebook, Tiger2169 on YouTube, wondering where we've been. Well, we've been here every Thursday night. So join us here each week. And Mike Novak also on Facebook. And the answer to your question, Mike, is no. So now a joke and now a riddle. Dave, I think you were going to tell us a joke. Shane, I think you were going to tell us.
No. It was the other way around. Shane has the joke.
Dave,
Yeah.
riddle me this.
Riddle me this. Okay. Damian Nelson. What does a lying dead man do?
What does a lying dead man do?
Yes.
He rises up in the middle of the match, doesn't he?
No. He still lies.
Oh my God, that's horrible.
What do you mean it's horrible? That's from the Batman, the new Batman movie, the new Batman, the Batman.
Seen it.
No, I saw the preview. DC
Shane.
fandom.
Shane, can you save this segment? That isn't a segment.
Does it need saving? I kind of felt like that was a hot spot.
What? Do you have a riddle?
I thought I wanted a joke. You can see you don't even understand the rules to your own shit.
Yeah.
All right, what did the elephant say to the naked man?
Hello?
How do you breathe out of that thing?
You asked for this, Nelson.
I did, and I'm going to ask now that we move on. You know, folks, last week, right here on this very broadcast, we did Be the Booker for AEW All Out, which was last Saturday on pay-per-view. That show now in the record books and some significant news coming out of it. And I want to review with both of you, firstly, your thoughts on the show, but how you did in your booking efforts against that of what we actually saw presented from AEW this past Saturday night. Now, I will start by this. And we had some interactions via SMS during the show. And this was the first AEW show where I saw fan sentiment start to go in a different direction than the overall high praise that the show typically gets. And that was, let's call it the first half of the show. The second half of the show seemingly over-delivered in a lot of fans' minds. But, gentlemen, your overall thoughts coming out of All Out on Saturday on pay-per-view, I believe the third main pay-per-view effort from AEW since their inception. And Dave, because while I always love to hear your spin on these matters, what did you think of the show?
Well, there's no spin. Was it a good show? Sure. Was it a great show? Not really. For me, it was a little bit clunky. It just felt like there wasn't a whole lot of chemistry in a lot of the matches, with the exception of the ladies. It just seemed like nothing was firing on all cylinders. Where they've had previous shows where everything seemed to be rolling and good in-ring chemistry, the chemistry was absolutely lacking for me on Saturday night.
All right, Shane, how about you? What was your takeaway from the show overall?
Yeah, I agree with Dave there. It was good, but not great. Some things got done that needed to be done. And yeah, there were maybe matches that went a little bit longer because they had to make up time for matches that accidentally got cut short. These things happen on a live show. They happen on a live pay-per-view. Keep in mind, AEW is still a young company. There's going to be growing pains, and growing pains are going to be a couple weeks. They're not going to be a couple months. They're going to be a couple years. So did they knock it? Was it a grand slam? No. They brought the ball home. They got a touchdown. So to mix metaphors.
I see what you did there too. Tonight's the kickoff of the NFL season.
Yep, and my mighty Lunar Ticks going to get the championship.
Well, but I'm more concerned about your Washington football team. How are they going to do this year?
The thing is, because I've been a Washington fan and a Panther fan, and I've been torn for all of these years. Mm-hmm. Since they've kind of rebranded themselves, this kind of seems to me like the time to finally make the break and just pull for the home team Panthers.
There you go.
Is it still the Washington football team, or do they have a name yet?
No, that's the name, the Washington football team.
Can they be the team formerly known as?
So I mean, that is what it. It is what it is. I grew up a Washington fan, so I could never just completely toss them to the side when the Panthers came to town. So I was just, torn. I was torn all these years.
They easily could have called them the Washington Redskin Potatoes. You know what I mean? That would have been just fine.
I want to welcome everybody joining us here on the PrimeTime Super Show Live. We're taking your comments live as well. YouTube, Facebook, and on Periscope at PWR 360 on Twitter. And we'll be sharing some of your comments on air. We just got the gentleman's overall thoughts on All Out from this past Saturday on pay-per-view. Now let's dig a bit deeper into it and let's go match by match. And as we do that, I'll remind each of you of who you had indicated you would have booked to have won at All Out last Saturday rather. The first one, though, I have a question. I don't know if we booked this match because there were 2 matches involving the Dark Order, and my notes don't reflect who we did where. So it was Private Party versus the Dark Order. It was a buy-in match, so I assume this is not one we booked, but I do want to get your thoughts on this match, as I am a big fan of the Private Party. We'll start with you, Dave.
Well, I think you should start with Shane because I missed that one for some reason. I didn't. That was in the pre-show, the buy-in, and I was already bought in, so I didn't have to watch the buy-in.
All right, Shane, what'd you think?
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't watch the buy-in either, so.
Sounds great. We're buying time back, folks. The next matchup was Britt Baker, the Dr. Britt Baker, returning to action against Big Swole. It was a tooth and nail match. Big Swole getting the win due to match stoppage. And again, Shane, Dave, we'll start with you.
You know what? I mean, I thought it was good. I wasn't a big fan of another cinematic match, but, anytime you can actually physically assault somebody with Novocaine in the leg, come on, something good's going to come out of that. But, good for Big Swole. She goes into enemy territory, into Britt Baker's office, and leaves with a big victory. It is what it is. We weren't going to see anything fantastic, but it was passable for a pre-show match.
All right. How about you, Shane? What'd you think?
There were parts of it I really liked. So, I'm really happy for Big Swole. I've known her for years and years and years. I'm really happy for her. And I thought they did okay. No big gripes.
Have we ever seen a match? Have we ever seen a match come to us live from a dentist office?
Not unless it was some Isaac Yankem shit back in the day. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yes.
I do hope that they will put the 2 of them in the ring together so they can both show what they can do inside the squared circle and not just all these outside shenanigan outside of the ring things.
Well, it's interesting. Both of you would have booked Britt Baker to have won that matchup, and that would not.
No, not true. Shane actually had Big Swole. I had Britt Baker.
I have Baker.
Well, you weren't paying attention.
That's because you suck with your notes.
Oh, you know what? I started writing Big Swole, and I just wrote Baker.
Yeah, well, B and B, it's very, very similar.
See, the fix is in already. I see how it is. You guys, you've known each other for years and years. Here comes the new kid in, trying all the time. I appreciate you, Dave. I appreciate you. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I don't even like that white suit no more.
But it's after Labor Day.
I don't even know what the hell that means.
So, Shane.
All right, go ahead.
The Young Bucks got a win over Jurassic Express.
Oh, yeah.
Via pinfall. The Young Bucks would be interesting what we would see with their storyline fine on Dynamite last night. But what did you think of this match from All Out?
That was good. A lot of athleticism, Young Bucks being the Young Bucks. Jungle Boy continues to be impressive. Luchasaurus still kind of at a plateau, but it was good.
David Hero?
I was amazed that Jungle Boy was able to kick out of a double super kick party.
That was overkill. That was a bit of a kill.
The only one that can sell that is Alex Marvez, I guess. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Jeez.
Both of you indicating that you would have booked, I believe, the Bucks to have won this matchup. I got a question. We dug into this a few times here. Jungle Boy's great. Marco Stunt is obviously injured with a foot injury, and Luchasaurus is been luchaing a lot as of late. And I think, Shane, you indicated a couple of weeks back that maybe there's just a bit too many on the flip end of moves from Luchasaurus. Do you still see that to be the case or not?
I think there's too much flips from everybody. It just doesn't seem necessary. It's just like, hey, I want to get a flip in just to get a flip in. I don't think they get the reaction that they used to. If you don't make the flip mean anything, then it's just going to be, an ornament on a present you didn't want. I think Luchasaurus is in the mindset like, hey, this is impressive because I'm a bigger guy. That's his mindset, and I've dealt with bigger guys that get stuck in that mindset. But when you see those type of flips from everybody else, it doesn't really have that big of effect anymore. It's just so watered down. He's a bigger guy in a sea of smaller guys. You know, I think he's just kind of like missing out on some of his natural gifts in terms of size and power.
Well, the next match was the Casino Battle Royal. We would see a surprise entrant, a mystery entrant, making his debut with AEW, which would be the first of 2 debuts this week. That of the former Evan Bourne of WWE, Matt Sydal. David Hero, were you surprised to see Matt involved in this pay-per-view match?
I was, and I was happy for him because he's just a great human being, a great talent, a good dude. He has one of the best 450 splashes you've ever seen up until Saturday night.
We didn't see it.
You know, where I guess because apparently it was like 90 shooting star. I mean, apparently it's 98 degrees in humidity, and those ropes were really slippery, and it showed. But I mean, I think he's a great addition to that company, and I look forward to Pac coming back and watching some Matt Sydal, Evan Bourne matches against Pac. I mean, guys that can just go and fly and do everything.
You know, Shane, I think it's important because it's so great having a wrestler on the program, because you can tell us a little bit more about that situation Dave mentioned, about the humidity in the outdoor environment that AEW has been performing in as of late, and the impact that that has on a match. What changes? Is humidity that big a factor? Do the ropes get that wet when you're in a non-climate controlled environment?
Oh, of course, you know, and I mean, it gets hotter. It's harder to breathe in that humid environment. So guys you know, I remember we used to do a show in Yuma, Arizona. WWE was an outdoor show, and it would just be hot. And me and Kane out there in the full bodysuit and the leather mask, we would just be, and we'd be about to die. So you got the guys like Luchasaurus, guys like Penta, and all of that. It really has an effect on those guys, but it has an effect on everybody, period. Yeah, things do. You sweat more. So, you know, in terms of like that battle royal, when you got that many people and they're all going all over those ropes, sweat. These guys got, you know, they all got to have their baby oil. They got the baby oil. They got the body butter. They got the fake tan. All of that shit gets all over the ropes. It gets all over the man. It just makes a damn mess.
Interesting. You know, back when I wrestled, I was still able to perform in those environments.
Yeah, you were always in a controlled environment that
involved a lot of baby oil.
Yeah.
Shane, Lance Archer gets the win and a future championship opportunity against.
Whoa! We just can't skip over all the crazy spots on that thing, can we?
No, go right ahead then. Let's talk about the crazy spots.
I mean,
weekend is a battle royal.
Let's talk about Darby. Let's talk about Darby Allin getting launched inside a body bag.
I always love talking about Darby Allin.
Yeah,
I mean, well, the crazy thing was, if you notice, look like all the thumbtacks fell out through the hole by his head, you know, and then to launch the guy where, I mean, let's face it, you have no idea how he's going to land. You don't know if he's going to hit the stairs because he can't brace himself. It's just like a wing and a prayer kind of thing. And I mean, that when Evan Bourne, you know, slipped and fell, and then you see Darby Allin getting tossed in a body bag, and I think that's when the pay-per-view just started to almost spiral out of control because all the crazy stuff that was going on.
The body bag thing didn't bother me because I can almost guarantee that was Darby's idea. Yeah, he wanted to do it, wanted to do something crazy. You know, if you ask for it, sometimes you're going to get it. So that didn't bother me as bad. The Evan Bourne thing was really dangerous, but luckily he noticed he slipped and he was able to at least, you know, not commit to the rotation in which he would have came down kind of head first. So, and he still, I put this on Twitter, he still kind of actually looked cool, even on the botch. He still kind of came down. And, you know, I've seen that could have been really bad. So, you know, yeah, that was a downer when you get a big debut and then, you know, you get the wind knocked out of yourselves like that. But just those battle royal matches, they have to be really booked meticulously. They're really hard to make entertaining. And
now you've booked Royal Rumbles, right? You've been in part of that.
I've been in Royal Rumbles, and I've booked Royal Rumble style matches. Yes. They take a lot of time, a lot of effort.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know how much time. You know, I mean, I wasn't involved in this booking, so I'm just saying, as an observer, there was a lot of missed opportunities, a lot of just like and to be quite frankly, it's a lot of guys that just forget that the camera's on them. I saw a lot of weak shit in there. And you see that a lot in battle royals. Guys kind of goof off a little bit. Not saying that they were goofing off, but man, you gotta assume that there's a camera on you at all times. This is pay-per-view. I mean, AEW, and I mean, I said this when I was an agent in Impact. I'm like, we're always going to be compared to WWE. We have to be at our very best every second that camera is rolling. And AEW has to realize that too. They're always going to be compared to the elephant in the room. Not the same elephant that saw the naked guy from earlier, but the elephant in the room that is the WWE. So anytime that red light is on, those guys need to be at peak performance, not being there kind of goofing off, just kind of half-assed and throwing some weak shots. You need to be good. And if after that, if there isn't an agent getting on these guys, which I can promise you there probably wasn't, that's going to be an uphill battle.
Well, it's because most of the agents were in the battle royal, from what I saw.
No, there's guys back there, so they got agents back there, but I don't know.
Yeah, and then of course the big finish was with Eddie Kingston being afraid of Jake Snake. Just seemed like that timing was just way off, and it just, just a weird finish for Lance Archer. You would have thought Lance Archer would have done something big to dominate that.
That only works for me if Jake's a babyface. That only works for me in that regard, and it didn't. Mm-hmm. That was flat for me in there, and yes, it worked with Andre, and yes, it worked with Kamala, but
right. But the
with all due respect, and I love Eddie Kingston, he's not Andre, and he's not Kamala.
No, and then all of a sudden they're telling us that Eddie Kingston's afraid of snakes as it's happening. Like, oh, so there was nothing to set that up. We just, take that at face value.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind, so many people are afraid of snakes. Like, that's not even that big of a deal. It was a big deal when Kamala and Andre were, because Andre's the eighth wonder of the world, and Kamala's the Ugandan headhunter. You don't expect them to be afraid of anything. That's why that worked. It didn't sell for me. I didn't buy it. So.
Well, gentlemen, great discussion, great in-depth discussion there on a battle royal, by the way. Thanks, Dave. But Lance Archer did get the win. He is now the number one contender. Shane, how did that strike you as being Archer getting the win there?
Good. I hope they do more stuff with him. It's still a good package, him and Jake. There's some things I personally would tweak to that, but I think there's still a big upside to Lance Archer, and Moxley needs threats. He needs people that can physically threaten him. His last opponent is MJF, as great as a heel as he was, physically not that big of a threat. So Lance Archer will be a different, variable in that equation.
And I hope that they use the storyline from New Japan Pro Wrestling where Moxley and Archer battled over the U.S. Championship. So there's a history there that they could absolutely bring to the forefront.
Look at Dave. Look at Dave with the insight.
Yeah.
I like
How about that. Yeah.
Folks, the next matchup we're going to talk about here.
Thanks, Damian.
The Pro Wrestling Report.
Yeah.
Hey, in the interest
way
of time,
to jump on that.
We've burned 24 minutes. We've got just about an hour remaining.
All right.
And this next match we're probably going to talk about for a while because it was controversial to say the least. And we saw it addressed by one of the participants, that being Matt Hardy last night on Dynamite. And it was he versus Sammy Guevara in a broken rules match. Well, anything went. And there was one spot that occurred during the matchup that set the world on fire, the internet on fire, but more importantly, seemingly had negatively impacted the well-being of one Matt Hardy. And that was the spot off of the top of the scissors lift through the table, which they didn't quite make it through seemingly the way they wanted to. And Matt Hardy clearly being in a different place mentally immediately following that spot. So Shane, there's no secret you're very close friends with the Hardys. What did you think watching this matchup? What was your reaction? And how do you feel it has been handled so far?
Seems a little jinxed, to be honest, at this point, with the chair. And then, then Sammy got bloody in the beatdown from Matt, and then we had this broken rules match. I hate to say it's time to move on because they didn't really get the finish that they wanted, But I don't know. It's tough. Matt got banged up in a match. Hey, people, I don't know if you know this. Pro wrestling is dangerous. And this whole thing. They asked Matt, could he continue? Matt said yes. We're all going to say yes, almost on instinct. When he couldn't stand there for a while, that's when it got scary to me, because it looked like he fell down and hit his head again. So that's when I got concerned. As he's a great friend of mine. So I've been in the situations where I was not clueless and finished the match that I don't remember finishing. And it's easy for fans to sit back and say, stop the match and all that. You got to give these guys a chance. It's like boxing. When somebody gets knocked down and they take a standing 8 count, we've seen it a million times. They don't know what damn planet they're on. And sometimes those guys come back and win. We get into pro wrestling. We know what we're getting into. I don't think anybody knows how bad it's going to be. But we don't sign. If we wanted to play chess, we'd play chess. We're getting into pro wrestling knowing that it's going to destroy our bodies. And if you don't know that pro wrestling is dangerous and is hurtful to you, then you clearly haven't been paying attention to any of the old timers you've ever seen ever. Even guys that didn't have nowhere near the impactful style that we have now, they're still beat the shit. Hell, people that don't do anything in life when they're older, they beat the shit. Much less when you throw pro wrestling in the mix. It's dangerous. It's very dangerous. And he took a bad fall, banged his head. They got through it, and it was ugly. You put a sour taste in I think a lot of fans' mouth, and in terms of, because you don't want to see anybody get seriously injured. Nobody watches pro wrestling for that. It's like MMA. We like seeing knockouts. Nobody really wants to see bones sticking out of the skin. But it was scary. Matt's a beloved individual in the business, and that scared a lot of people, and that's just what it was. A lot of those reactions were people that were scared, but you got to let us do what we do. You got to let us do what we do.
Shane, before Dave, if I could touch on something you said there real quick, and I want to get your perspective too, Dave. Shane, you said that almost any time the answer is yes, whether or not the participant can continue. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you flat out. Is that fair to make it your choice, to make it Matt Hardy's choice, to make it whoever's choice as to whether or not they continue? Because it seems, as you said, that no matter what, they are going to continue. Is that fair to the performer? And is that the right thing for the company to do, to let them decide?
Well, when a boxer gets knocked down, do they go ask him or do they go ask his corner?
They go ask the corner, right? Or
no, they ask him. Are you okay? Can you continue? And you have the right to say no. There are Ivar the other night on WWE threw up his own ex. If you can't continue, you do have that right. There is an instinct in some of us to say we can't continue. And then if you can't, all right, the referee's discretion, stop the match. If they would have stopped it when he stumbled over, I would have got it. I said, okay, I would have understood that too. But we deserve the first question. Ask us, are we okay? Mm-hmm. Like I said, the match that I'm talking about, which I was not loopy, I kept talking to the referee. He told me this later. He goes, you answered every question I gave you. I called spots to my opponent. Like I said, I didn't know what planet I was on. Finished the match. I go to the back, and in the back is where I came to. I was never cold. I just wasn't at home. And I still finished it. Shit, did a flip over the top rope, came back in, came off the top again. Nobody knew anything. Shit happens. You got to give us that opportunity to fight back.
And I agree about that. The problem I have with the whole thing is how they say he passed the concussion protocol. Please tell me what protocol you can do within 2 or 3 minutes.
I don't know.
I mean, it makes no sense to me. And then, so I'm watching it. We know Matt's knocked out. We hear the match being stopped. All of a sudden, they restart it, only to go to the finish where now a guy that was knocked unconscious now has to climb a boom tower or whatever they're called. That, my friend, I thought was careless, because why put him in that situation where you're up 20, 30 feet, dizzy, and then fall? That I didn't like.
I didn't like that, but that was those guys. That's not the company. People are blaming the company for decisions that Matt and Sammy were making. Keep in mind, that spot that they did, that spot was insane and wasn't even close to being the finish.
Yeah, that wasn't the finish. Yeah,
that was a
the
silly spot to do. That's not a finish. You're going to fall that high through a table onto the concrete, and then you're going to just continue after that. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about how crazy things we do, and we just keep going. There are things like that that are going to hurt you, and we saw that. And guys sit there and take stuff like that and then get up like everything's okay, and then they go in the back and they can hardly walk. It's just ridiculous.
So that being said, the guy that got concussed and knocked unconscious shows up on TV last night. The guy that took the bump through a bunch of marshmallow pillows wasn't.
Yeah, well, he wasn't unconscious. I mean, he was obviously moving around. He just he was astral traveling.
Right. Well, yeah, he's probably going to one of his different deities or whatever he calls them. But I mean, for me, I've like, of course, only in pro wrestling would that happen, where the guy that really got hurt is on TV, and then the guy that took the big bump through the crash pads was off TV.
Well, I think that might have been, hey, let's calm the fans down a little bit, because people were legit super worried about Matt Hardy. So get him out here, but I don't know why we had to do that. Tell the story.
Listen, for me, whenever there's something news breaking on Matt Hardy, the first thing I do is check out TM Revy, because I know she's always going to report the facts. And whoa, baby, was she on fire Saturday night.
Yeah, I reached out to Revy immediately just to make sure she was okay. So a lot of people don't. You think about the person you see on TV, and it's sometimes you forget about the family at home watching. So I'm sure she was terrified, and I'm sure she wanted this thing stopped immediately. And I don't blame her at all for thinking that. So
yeah, absolutely.
A couple things, gentlemen. David, you as a promoter, though, a question. I'll give the same question to you I gave to Shane. As a promoter, when do you stop a match? What point is too much? Too much. You got performers that tell you, wrestlers that tell you they're okay, they can keep going. As Shane said, most would do anyways earlier. But when do you step in and say, I've got a responsibility to end this thing?
Thank God I've never been in that situation, so I really don't know. But, I mean, you just have to watch. You just have to watch their body language. If nobody's home, and like Shane, Shane's right. If it's MMA or boxing and there's a world championship title match at stake, for me, I'll rebook the same match next month. You know what I mean? So it's not like they're going to get paid more or less if they win or lose. But I mean, it was just, I will always defer to the talent first, because, like Shane said, they know their bodies better. But I mean, it's hard because you don't know. Wrestlers are so good at working everybody. They're usually working everybody. So you don't know what's really going on.
I'll give you guys a couple of examples, and I think both your points are fair. And let me ask you if this was handled right or not, because it's a similar situation. And one of the biggest similar situations happened in 1997, I believe it was. Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Owen Hart. That's
the first thing I thought of. When
Austin literally broke his neck. Shane, you may have more insights than we do as to that, the inner workings of that situation, but that match continued. Granted, there was no social media at the time for the outrage to be heard, but it probably shouldn't have.
Yeah, I mean, it probably shouldn't have, but I mean, he did. He got up and finished the match, and I'm sure he's glad that he did. I've never heard him say that he wished it would have been stopped.
Yeah, good point. And Dave, another one. I know you thought about that one, so feel free to talk about it as well. But
Sid Vicious, you stopped the match.
Well, Sid couldn't.
Easy stoppage.
That's a little different there. He couldn't continue, right? His leg had snapped.
Yeah, if he can't get, and he said he didn't say yes. He did not say I can't continue. His ass said, "Get me the fuck out of here."
But that's so much more of an obvious situation. Now, these spots were planned, from what I understand from hearing after the fact. But another situation was, in addition to that, Undertaker Mankind, 1998. Whether they were planned spots or not, Mankind was in a bad place. Dave, should that match continue?
I mean, that's the match I would have stopped.
At what point?
After he went through the cage. After he went through the cage.
Yeah.
That's what I'm like, okay. The first one, okay, it's Mick. By all means, I get it. That's your thing. The second one, that we weren't expecting, and now there's There's no way your body should ever absorb the first one, let alone 2 of those.
Shane, let me ask you this. You may have more insight than we do, but in that match back in 98, there was a point in that match where Vince McMahon actually came to ringside. And as you said, Dave, we're always being worked, right? So his concern looked incredibly genuine at that time. Do you know more to that? Was he truly evaluating whether or not he was going to allow that spectacle to continue?
I wasn't there at the time, and haven't asked any of the particulars about that. It added. I'm sure he was concerned, and it did add to it. So to answer your question, it did add to it. I think Vince knows him going out there is going to, that's going to change the temperature in the arena no matter what. So I'm pretty sure he was a little bit. Was it planned for him to go out there? I don't know.
All right, fair enough. Well, good discussion. Ultimately, it would be Matt Hardy getting the win over Sammy Guevara. And Shane, at the beginning of this conversation, I will echo what you said, which is this whole story between the two of them has been rough. Not for anything either of them has done. Well, you could argue that, I guess, in the case of Sammy Guevara. But from Guevara being suspended, Matt Hardy debuting in front of no audience, to the whole COVID situation and just the track that these two have taken, while it has been entertaining for sure, the culmination being at All Out this past Saturday, it was good, but how great could it have been, assuming it's over?
I don't know. And if the stipulation of the match wasn't that Matt has to retire or leave AEW, maybe they just could have ended it there. That might have been in Matt's head too. We got to figure out a way for me to win this match because this stipulation, right or wrong, I'm just saying that might have been one of the things. But I really like I said, it feels like this little feud's been jinxed a little bit, but at the same time, I know what these guys are capable of. So I kind of hate that it would end on a downer, but maybe we can take a break, revisit it later. And
was this Sammy's first real program / feud in AEW?
As far as the single thing, yeah. Everything else, It feels like he was Inner Circle involved.
So one final question on that, and I'll throw to you, Dave, to answer first. Is Sammy Guevara getting unnecessary heat from the audience, from the fans, over this situation based on the situation with the chair that he threw at Matt a couple of weeks ago, which they integrated very tremendously into the story?
Well, he can get all the heat for throwing the chair, but what happened on Saturday night wasn't his fault at all. They just overshot both tables.
Yeah, I agree with Dave. But if he doesn't get heat, use it.
Again,
that's what I mean. Once it happened,
we're always being worked, right?
Once this situation happened, use it. Like, I understand why they brought Matt out, which is what I just said. At the same time, I would have used that. Something like that, I would use.
Hey, look at 0-3-16. I just broke your neck.
It's a great point. That's a great point. Earl Hebner. I screwed Brett. Question coming in, and we'll end this topic on that. Jamie Weisner on YouTube, watching us live. Didn't TNA do a concussion angle with Mr. Anderson in 2011? Dave, I don't recall.
They might have. That was 9 years ago. Come on. I forgot we did 9 minutes ago.
Huh? Where am I?
Weren't you manscaping 9 minutes ago?
I hope not.
Well, not on the air. Come on.
I heard buzzing.
Oh, that was buzzing, all right, but that wasn't a manscaping.
Both of you had booked Matt Hardy to win that matchup, so congratulations, I guess you can call it. Neither of you would have had it go the way it did, but it did happen. It is gone. I said we're going to end it, but let's not, because we're going to integrate our Dynamite conversation into the All Out conversation. The promo, or the quite heartfelt address that Matt Hardy did last night on Dynamite, and Rebby being in the audience. Dave, how did that strike you?
I think Shane's right. I think it needed to be done. I think he had to go out there just to calm the flames. People were pissed. People were upset. Like, Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, the Hardy Boys are beloved. And, Matt has had quite the resurrection. It was 8 years ago where Matt was doing stupid stuff on social media, got his life turned around, 3 beautiful kids. He's a family man. He comes back at WrestleMania to a WrestleMania return that I still get goosebumps every time I watch it, and he's beloved. And he had to go out there just so the fans can see that he's okay. And it's important that Rebby was there with her nod of approval because, let's face it, she was ready to torch some houses on Saturday night.
That she was. Shane, how about you?
Shane, hold on. Shane laughs, but he knows I'm right. He knows
100%. 100%. I know her, yeah. Yeah, like I said, I think it kind of needed to be done, but at the same time, I was waiting for like Sammy Guevara to come walking down the steps behind Rebby.
Yes.
In a menacing thing, but
use it, right?
Huh?
As you said, use it.
Yeah, without a doubt. But if they're
going to knock, would have beat his ass.
Would it not be entertaining?
With the kid on her hip.
Either way,
in her own words, she would have cut a bitch, right?
Yeah. So, but if they're going to not continue the feud, okay, don't use it. But that would have been some heat if he would have just, when they cut back to Matt, he keeps talking. They cut back to Rebby, and Sammy's just sitting in the row behind her, and she don't even know.
and then you find out Sammy's actually the father. Imagine that.
Gosh. No. Hey, you know what? You guys might be predicting the future, by the way, because that has some potential to keep this story going because she's now involved.
Well, he does say he's a Spanish god, and what did God do? Come on.
I didn't read that. What did he do?
There's a whole immaculate conception thing. Who knows? Maybe it is Sammy's kid. You never know.
All right, gentlemen, we're live on Fight TV. It's the Primetime Super Show. Damian Nelson joined by David Hero and Shane Helms. We are live on Fight.
I love how Shane is shaking his head in disgust. It was like, come on, seriously?
I'm just letting you guys know, Shane Helms did not say that.
There it is, folks. We are also live on YouTube, Facebook, and Periscope as well. So thank you for joining us all over the world here on Fight TV. And the next matchup, which I do believe we did be the book, if you will, it was Matt Cardona and Scorpio Sky and the Natural Nightmares versus the Dark Order. And I remember you saying, Dave, who we'll go to first, that you don't even know who's going to be in this match because there's so many Dark Order members. Well, it would be, don't even care. But what did you think of the matchup, Dave, where ultimately Cardona, Sky, and the Nightmares get the win?
You know what? It was following everything with Matt Hardy, so I think nobody was truly paying attention to that match. But I did not expect to see Colt Cabana cost his team the victory. I thought that was very interesting. I was surprised that all the baby faces, all stayed together. I think they could have created something special there, but to me, the match was just very bland just because of what happened just prior.
It feels like for many fans, the wheels, the brain, if you will, the thought process, the concerns over Matt Hardy's well-being were still circulating during this matchup, thus preventing people from getting into it. But Shane, both of you picked the Dark Order to win this matchup. What did you think of the match overall?
Yeah, I mean, it was okay. Like Dave said, once you get an injury like that, it can take the wind out of the whole crowd cells. I was on that pay-per-view with Joey Mercury got his head cut off, and I had to follow that, and nobody cared about anything for a couple matches.
Was that the ladder spot?
Yeah.
Oof.
So
still one of the most brutal things I think I've ever seen in professional wrestling. How many staples, stitches?
All of them. Every stitch and staple the hospital had went in Joey's face that night.
Yeah.
So,
and talking about this match, Zach Cardona didn't get over.
Matt
Ryder didn't get over
Cardona.
And I just didn't see what everyone's been waiting for out of him. I would have liked to have seen Scorpio Sky shine to look like a heavyweight contender. Just didn't see it. Didn't see it at all.
And things I've said before about the Dark Order, they seem to want to be entertaining baby faces sometimes. It's hard to tell who is the heels there. It's hard to get heat when you got heels that aren't committed to being heels. And I don't know where their mind's at, but I know that's the way it comes off to me. But the thing with Colt Cabana was interesting, and they played off at the TV. So for storyline continuity-wise, I thought that was pretty good. If you saw after the match on Dynamite with Brody Lee and Dustin, that Colt came out and Brody Lee like pie-faced him and told him to get his ass to the back. And that was really well done. So I like that. I'm interested in that aspect of the story.
Speaking of that matchup, Shane, Dustin Rhodes continues to just be absolutely phenomenal inside that squared circle, inside the ropes, inside the ring. And
if you're talking about the Wednesday night, when he started hitting his comeback, the last 1/3 of that match was on fire. So Dustin's doing great work.
I thought the finish was a little abrupt, though. It was great, Archer pinning Dustin, but
especially since Archer wasn't even in the match.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Mr. Brody Lee. Good job. But
we don't all look alike, Damien.
Beard too. Just before that, though, we were reminded by the commentators. You cannot, because you're wearing yellow. Do not do that. just before that, though, we were reminded by the commentators that there was not much TV time remaining. And then 30 seconds later, it was the finish with 3 minutes of TV time remaining. And this is a challenge, I think, if there are any with AEW. And keep in mind, it's the show I look forward to watching each and every week, and I'll do so next Thursday night. We think it might air, depending on the NBA Finals. They're not as polished production-wise with telling us what we should be looking for and distracting us from what we might be seeing. And I think that is somewhere where they can get better, because there are many times where there are announcer gaffes, I guess you can call them, where they either tell me what's about to happen without knowing they're telling me what's about to happen, or make something obvious that shouldn't be obvious to me. And this was one of those cases. Dave, what do you say about that if you notice the same thing?
Yeah, I also notice different camera cuts where they're cutting away as you see somebody sneaking in behind somebody. So, but I mean, that's just getting more familiar with it. And I'm guessing it's a producer thing where they're not telling the camera guys where to be looking or what to be looking for. But I mean, it's also Jim Ross. You can tell he gets frustrated quickly and easily at times. And not that he buries what's going on in the ring. He's, I think, more or less trying to cover up what's not happening in the ring.
Yeah, and to that point, I'll give Excalibur an amazing amount of credit. If anyone is performing the primary play-by-play role on that program, it's him. He's the glue, actually, that's keeping that three-man team together. Taz does the same thing when he's out there. Now, Taz, JR, Shivani all have professional experience in WWE or WCW. But one thing that need be said is when you look at how polished WWE is, and I laugh when Jim Cornette refers to the WWE announcers as Michael Cole 1, Michael Cole 2, and Michael Cole 3 because they all sound the same. But they've been doing this for how many years? They are a TV production company. You could argue AEW is a wrestling company, thus more well-received by wrestling fans than WWE. So you got to give and take a little bit. But there is a challenge when your fans are watching, especially if your fans are smart, and they are not being manipulated as they're used to being manipulated by WWE. And I say that not in a bad way, that's in a good way. And we'll leave that there. So the next matchup was for the tag team champion.
Way to put a button on that one. That's a good job.
I thought you were going to throw it to Shane. That's why I didn't say anything.
No, I'm a closer. I closed that story. We are at
let's move on. Yeah, let's move on.
49
50 minutes and we're still on this pay-per-view.
Discussion, by the way. I feel that as I normally do, I'm going to go long tonight. So AEW Tag Team Championship is on the line. And I will say this. The build to this story, while it was obvious that FTR was going to win as they did to become the new tag team champions, while this match was long, the build to it with the situation between Omega and Page, which we saw interviews with both on Wednesday night's Dynamite, the situation with the Young Bucks, the situation with the Elite, all of this really led together to the perfect scenario for FTR winning and taking nothing away from the team of Page and Omega. The new tag team champions who had a celebration on Wednesday night, which, of course, after they berated every other team in the company, fell apart. This match on Saturday was long, but damn, it was good. And I'm not sure it gets much better in tag team wrestling than FTR. And Tully Blanchard with the salt and the pepper on top of them has been fantastic. Shane, what did you think of this tag team contest?
Yeah, they might have had to make up some time for the Matt Hardy injury match. That's what I'm guessing. unless they went out there, and we're going to go 30 minutes no matter what. Totally could be the case as well. Seemed a bit long at times. Got a little long in there, but great tag team wrestling. Good stuff. I think we both predicted FTR to win, so I like that. I wasn't crazy about the segment on Dynamite with them coming out and getting ice put on their heads. They really just did something impactful. With winning that, they were NXT champions, they were Raw Tag Team champions, SmackDown Tag Team champions. Now they come to AEW and they win the AEW World Tag Team champions. They got one of the legendary Four Horsemen with them. Let them come out on Wednesday and have that moment. Like, this is make it a real accomplishment. When they just did a ha-ha segment with the ice getting put on the head, I feel like, man, they just won the titles a couple of days ago. We don't gotta do that to them right away. That segment felt way too rushed, and it felt way too forced, and it felt hokey as hell.
I'll say this: it's been interesting since they've allowed fans back into Daly's Place Plaza, whatever it is, down in Jacksonville, Florida. The show energy has actually decreased, in my opinion. Since when they had the talent at ringside performing, as the fans, and to that point, Shane, the celebration. It felt longer than it was, and it just felt flat, to be honest with you. I mean, you sort of knew exactly what was going to happen when Luchasaurus got in the ring, then Marco Stunt got in the ring, then Jungle Boy did the jump and miss, and Marco Stunt, as soon as he got in, he put his hands on the cooler. They hadn't told us there was a cake there until there was a cake there, and they showed us on camera, which is like, okay, somebody's going to the cake, but they didn't. I was wondering before where SCU got the beers from and if there was like their thing or if they were part of the celebration. Again, it's that connectivity that's lacking and missing sometimes in AEW that would have made that segment a little better. Dave, your thoughts?
Well, Shane says it went, it may have gone long to make up for the shortness of Matt's match. It was still a 4-hour pay-per-view, so I don't, it's like, they could have gone short. It would have been just fine. Marco Stunt dumping the ice on FTR. No. Didn't like that at all, just because it's Marco Stunt. Nothing against Marco, but he's not going to be the guy that's going to be brave enough to dump a cooler of ice on two of the baddest guys in wrestling. And then
I know what you're doing right now, Dave. You're doing it, and you haven't done it for weeks. You haven't done it for weeks, so I'll give you praise. And I was not going to release the Woodward tapes about you talking about this before, but now I'm going to reference them. You hate smaller wrestlers. That's why you're saying Marco Stunt couldn't. Why is it not reasonable? Marco Stunt's a brave man. That makes it reasonable that he's going to.
Because I don't know how he was able to lift the cooler that high.
There we go. Yep.
But here's the other thing. We know Billy Gunn. If someone's going to punk up Billy Gunn, he's going to beeline into that ring, and he didn't. And I hated that. I don't think they needed to have all the tag teams around the ring. And for a tag team that left WWE because they felt it was hokey and corny and too funny, haha, that segment there was everything WWE would have done to them except put them in silly costumes. So I agree with Shane. Like they could have made them just this badass, ass-kicking, brain busters type of tag team. We never saw baby faces get over on Tully and Arn like that before. And here's the other thing. Tully let it happen because he saw everything happen. It's like he didn't even smarten them up. So I just thought I love FTR. I think Tully is great with them. I don't know where was Sean Spears if Spears is still with Tully Blanchard. But yeah, it was just bad business for me, that entire segment.
I do like that they showed up looking smooth, though. They showed up looking like champions, with the suits and everything. They showed up looking good. I think they could have said some of the stuff they said without the people being out there. That wasn't necessary, just shitting on a bunch of baby faces. The payoff wasn't funny. It just wasn't well done. I mean, even on paper, I don't know what that. They love pouring things on people's heads. So far in the last 2 months, we've seen beer poured on people's head, orange juice poured on people's head, champagne poured on people's head, now an ice bucket. Like, okay. Like, is that the go-to gag for AEW, just to pour shit on somebody's head?
And here was the production problem with that. We saw it coming.
Yes.
We knew it was going to happen.
They were so close together when they were standing outside. Yeah.
I'm like, well, that absolutely sucks. It's one thing if it's out of nowhere.
it just made them look like idiots. Like, I mean, as bad as they are, they're just cool ass tag team. Flair, Arn, and Tully wouldn't have been out there talking shit to the Road Warriors, to all of them people to their face.
Yeah.
Not that. What was there? 12 of them out there. I mean,
everybody.
I mean, that's just as ridiculous as Marco Stunt acting tough. I mean, I don't care how good of a tag team you are. You're not going to talk shit to 12 people.
Right.
Some of them gigantic, Billy Gunn and Luchasaurus out there. So you got to,
Let me clear up the Marco Stunt controversy you both have started. He's injured, so he knew nobody would come after him.
Oh, okay. Well, how was he able to pick up that big 75-pound cooler?
His foot is reinforced.
Oh.
You both have worn a boot. You know it makes you stronger.
Well, yeah, we're bionic. Yeah.
Hey, stop flexing. Well, speaking of fluids, AEW had a Mimosa Mayhem match. It was Orange Cassidy versus Chris Jericho. And folks, as obvious as this was, it was still so amazing getting there because Jericho has made...
What?
Dave, okay, fine. I guess we'll start with you. Go ahead.
This is going to be a 3-hour show, by the way.
Go ahead.
We haven't even touched NXT Impact. We barely touched Dynamite. It's an hour in, and we're still talking. This is going to be longer than the fucking pay-per-view.
That's prime time. Dave, I won't even finish my setup because I'm getting yelled at for going long. And you apparently now will initiate your hate against Orange Cassidy. Why don't you go ahead
and
corny.
There's no hate with Orange Cassidy. I just hated that match because it was so
kabuki-ish?
Kabuki-ish, choreographed. Just like I felt no sense of urgency. It was like watching two guys, just tiptoe around orange juice. It just, they weren't fighting. Two guys that hate each other. There was no punching and kicking and trying to destroy each other. I just wasn't into it.
But doesn't that work because of Orange Cassidy's, I guess, nonchalant demeanor?
You hate your opponent. You want to kill them and torture them and maim them.
But see, that's where it's different, Dave. I didn't get that from this story. I got that Jericho was just irritated with Cassidy, and Cassidy just didn't care. There was no hatred. There was no maiming required in this match. From what I gathered.
Shane, help me out here.
Tapping out. Okay, very good.
I liked it. I mean, it could have been a little bit more angry, less silliness, but I mean, you're going to have some entertainment in there with Orange Cassidy. That's part of his deal, part of his gimmick. I thought it was fun, and I thought it looked like those guys, I think they like working with each other. If they didn't, this match wouldn't be happening, especially from Jericho's standpoint. So I kind of thought Jericho would get the win here. I think I picked him. I can't remember, but I'm not opposed. I'm not opposed to Orange Cassidy. I think I did mention too that if they want to keep that ball rolling, him getting another win isn't out of the realm of possibility. And obviously it wasn't. And two, going forward to Dynamite. I love the segment that Jericho did in the beginning of the show with MJF, where they're kind of congratulating each other, but it's very snide. Kind of that ribbing on the square thing, and then the split screen when they're walking away, going, "What a loser!" That shit was super well done. That was very cool.
It was great.
Yeah, and then Orange Cassidy had him a get over match with Angelico, where he just went over strong. Finished the match, he went through his comeback, went over strong. Little shenanigans on the afterward, and then you had Jericho with Hager. So I guess they're going to be a tag team now. So I guess the Jericho Orange Cassidy thing is kind of done. I think Jericho did great business with him. Orange Cassidy is a star, and they're going to have to figure out a way to keep that ball rolling.
I think Jericho and Hager against FTR is going to be for some really good wrestling. It's almost like when the Midnight Express wrestled Tully and Arn.
Wow, that's huge. Wow, really, Dave?
Two heel tag teams, all four guys can go. I'm looking forward to that.
Shane, your face said no.
I don't know. He'll when the Horsemen went against the Midnights, that time, the Midnights really kind of took that babyface branch. Who's the babyface here?
I think FTR would be the babyface in that.
Well, I mean, we're going to need some weeks to get them there because they're not baby faces now. I'm not.
Well, yeah,
and I don't think they'll be great baby faces anyway. You know, these guys they're natural heels. That's their dynamic. So I don't know. Stylistically, at this point on this day, whatever day this is, September the 10th, stylistically, that's a little iffy for me. Not saying we can't get there. They're 4 talented guys.
Dave, a couple of comments on social media. I'm not picking on you. It's just happening live as we speak. One of your dear friends, Chris Hummel, says that seems like a high comparison that you just made about the Horsemen of the Midnight Express. And also Jason Eric Bell, who would like you to GTFOH with that. 4 exclamation points, Dave, 3 exclamation points.
Why?
GTFO. Oh.
Are you just now figuring that out? Look at him. Look at that light bulb go off.
No, that's just his bald head. That's all that is.
Yeah, I'm not going to compare that matchup to the Midnights and Horsemen whatsoever. But
you never know. You never know. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to say it's the Road Warriors and the Powers of Pain either. You know what I mean?
I think of the 2 comparisons, it might be closer to that.
Folks, the main event, it was for the championship. And I got to say this. Now I'm deeply concerned with what's going to happen in November of 2020, some 55 days away, because MJF is out of the running to make this country better, if you will. And now it was him versus Moxley for the championship. You had the greatest buildup because it felt like MJF could do it. It felt like it would be his chance. He did not do it. Moxley gets the win. Both men bloodied in the matchup, which we don't see much in wrestling anymore. And some now dissension between MJF and Wardlow after he fired his entire campaign staff this past Wednesday on Dynamite, last night on Dynamite, which was also entertaining. But Shane, let me get your thoughts on the main event from All Out. Jon Moxley, the champion, which I still don't think this was the even top build match on the card, even though I just said the build was tremendous to it. Moxley gets the win over MJF for the championship.
I don't think this is the last time we're going to see them 2 go at it. I like Moxley continuing his run as the champion. Good win. I mean, he's got a good series of wins under his belt as that champion. Some good defenses. They need to build that up. To make that championship mean more. You don't bounce it around. If you're going to bounce around a title, you got the TNT title to do that. The tag team titles changed hands that night, so. I get the business behind it. MJF is talented. He's not going nowhere. His star is going to continue to rise. And Moxley's doing a lot better as the champion than I initially thought he would. Not that I thought he was going to do bad whatsoever. He's just exceeded expectations. And so I'm looking forward to seeing him and I guess Archer going forward. The Wardlow thing, I still don't understand why he's taking this abuse from MJF anyway. I don't know what the hell's going on there. When MJF fired his staff, that one girl smiling creepy the whole time, that shit tickled the hell out of me. I couldn't take my eyes off her. Whoever that was.
He rated her better than Heenan could have.
Her just sitting there grinning like that was a great touch. So kudos to her for that. So they're still doing good stuff with that. And like I said, that whole opening segment on Dynamite with MJF and Jericho that was probably the best promo of the week. And just so well done and just creative on the outshot split screen, and that was very creative.
But it was like Lex Luthor and the Joker.
Yes, it is Lex Luthor and the Joker.
It felt real though,
but not the Joker and the Riddler though. Just Lex Luthor.
No, yeah,
it felt real. And the way they shot it, the way they delivered it with the split screen at the end, as you said, it felt like. It didn't feel like we were intruding on the conversation or the aftermath of the conversation, which thus made it not just more believable, but more relatable. And you got to give the credit to those 2 talents and the AEW production team, which I sort of crapped on earlier, for delivering that so well. It was very, very well done. But Dave, your thoughts on the main event? Jon Moxley retains over MJF.
I think it was everything they needed to do. They kept MJF strong because Ambrose beat him with the finisher that wasn't supposed to be allowed. So it's not like he beat him any other way. So I thought that was great. I thought it was smart. The whole Wardlow thing, I mean, he needs Wardlow. He really does. I don't think he should get rid of him anytime soon because that way he can always, hide and cower behind somebody. And Wardlow's a beast. And But Moxley, you know what? He's hitting on all cylinders, and he's doing everything that they need him to do. I don't know if he's as over as a champion as they want him to be, because as far as the characters go, he might be 3 or number 4 at best on TV, behind a Jericho, behind a Cody, and behind even MJF. As far as personality-wise, we really truly don't know who Jon Moxley is, in AEW.
Gentlemen, I want to move on and talk more about the. And by the way, both of you picked Moxley in that matchup, but talk more about last night's Dynamite. We did see a substantial.
You didn't. You skipped over the Thunder Rosa Shida match, which was
I did.
Probably one of the best matches on the show. I just saw that mentioned in the chat, so I didn't catch it either. But that was one of the best matches on the show. They utilized a spot made famous by the Hurricane, which Excalibur gave credit to somebody else. Hey, it is what it is. They might have did it first, but I made the shit famous. Let's just be real. But I was really happy with that. Shida, Shida's a great performer. I've known Thunder Rosa for quite a bit, so I was really proud of her, and I thought that was a really good match. And I hope that I don't know what Thunder Rosa's deal is with NWA, but I hope to see more of her in AEW if possible.
And I think we have a big tag team NWA championship match next week on Dynamite. Did I hear that properly?
If you did, I didn't.
I think I did. In fact,
NWA?
I think so. I think they said that. Well, let the fans tell us if you're watching here on socials, on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. Let us know. I mean, they did the match graphics for next week. They told us the show might be on Wednesday, might be on Thursday, but I heard, and I may have heard wrong, that they mentioned the NWA championship, but I thought JR said it would be on the line. Again, I could be very wrong.
The NWA tag champions or the NWA
women's champion? The women's champion.
Oh, okay. The NWA, so Thunder Rosa will be defending the NWA women's champion.
That's what I believe I heard.
Okay, you said tag champion.
That's what they're saying.
You said the NWA tag champions.
I'm so sorry. I did not mean that. I meant the women's championship.
Where's your head?
It's right here.
In tag teams.
Like Herman's head?
All
right, gentlemen. Continuing talking about Dynamite last night on TNT, another major news story comes out of it. And a lot of people tuned in to watch this. They didn't know they were going to be tuning in to watch this. Again, just over 1 million people tuning in for AEW last night. Their third biggest audience since debuting just 1 year ago, I believe it was. And that was the debut of the former Rusev of WWE. Miro is the best man for the wedding, but he is also now All Elite. David Hero, how did it strike you? We knew it was coming. Well, we didn't know it was coming. We expected it to be coming. They waited. This one took a little while for him to debut, but now Miro, part of AEW.
I love it. I think Rusev is a game changer for AEW. Just because he has main event experience working with top guys. And man, I tell you, it's a huge signing for them, and it's great for them. I think he's going to be a great fit because he's well respected by the fans. He always seems to do good business, from what I've heard, and he's going to be a threat for Jon Moxley, without a doubt.
Shane, what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, the whole Twitch thing, I'm not crazy about.
Well, I think that's a play on the fact that another news story, and I don't want to cut you off.
I know, but it's just silly.
Yeah.
It's just unnecessary jabs, but I love Miro. Him. I think the WrestleMania, the last one that was in New Orleans, was when that Rusev Day thing was really over. And I just remember you couldn't go anywhere in that damn city without hearing a Rusev Day chant. It was as over as anything I'd ever seen. Hey, and my Karen was with me at the time. She doesn't follow wrestling at all, let's be honest. And she was like, I just had to explain it to her, but she kept asking, but why? Why is he over? I go, I don't know. It doesn't matter. He is. That's what matters, is that he is.
I tell you this, Shane, and Dave, you remember, and Shane, I apologize. I don't remember if you were there that year or not, because that was our biggest one yet, but the Shenanigans party on Bourbon Street that year.
Of course he was.
That's where I was the biggest one.
Rusev Day was over like a mofo.
Yeah, it was everywhere.
You couldn't move on Bourbon Street because the party had overflowed onto the street. And it was just absolutely amazing. But, it's interesting. I think it was Aiden English who said recently in an interview that, or maybe it was Rusev, Miro, that Vince McMahon said that was mocking Rusev, not supporting Rusev.
I mean, and maybe in the beginning it was. Maybe he saw it the first time, and maybe he just got that vibe. But I think there had to be a point where
R. Kelly.
I don't even know what that means. But
you got that vibe. You got it, vibe.
Little cute Aaliyah's got it.
Yeah. Little did we know what he was telling us.
Okay. Just for the listeners out there, the listeners out there that can't see, I got a Wu-Tang shirt.
Wait, this is surprising. You don't know R. Kelly's, I think it was his debut album back to the 90s, where
I know I believe in fly, and that's it. I like hip hop. R&B is a different thing.
Dave, please support me. That was an R&B hip hop album.
Oh yeah, of course it was.
R. Kelly, she's got that vibe. There was what was it? Was it Cherry Love or what was the other song?
I don't know. It was 92 or 93.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
R. Kelly was out in 92?
Yeah.
God, yeah. That album was great, man.
I don't know.
You don't remember little cute Aaliyah having it?
No.
Wow.
That's all right.
Huh.
What kind of Wu-Tang knowledge you got since you want to call me out?
So here's what's funny. I was driving down the street here in New Jersey today, and someone had in their yard a sign that looked like a political sign, but it said Wu-Tang for life. And I'm like, oh, that's fantastic.
There you go.
But I think it's now is a greater time than any to talk about the shirt you are wearing, Shane, and where you can get that shirt, because everyone can be just like you.
I wouldn't go that far, but if you want to wear the shirt, collar and elbow, look at old giggle box over here. Collar and elbow brand.com is where you can go to get this Wu-Tang Wrestling is for the children shirt. What is the code?
The code is PWR 360 if you want the CX.
Oh, look at you with the brand new Skippy.
That is fantastic.
Okay, I'm going to have to check my box tomorrow. If it's empty, I'm getting upset.
And then the back of their shirt says, I want to believe. So, it's super. They just dropped. Shane, yours are definitely on the way. Damian, maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, go to accountablebrand.com, promo code PWR360, and get the hookup. Yes.
I want to believe. That's tremendous. Now,
so
apparently,
I shirt,
I don't know if we
real quick. I had a shirt that said, "You will believe in WWE." And what I wanted the back to say was, because I was instrumental in designing all my shirts, "You will believe," and on the back say, "I can fly." You will believe I can fly. And strangely enough, it had nothing to do with R. Kelly, but anyway.
Honey,
but I was told that I couldn't have that on the back because they were afraid that kids would be jumping off the roof. And I was like, what? Wow. And I was like, well, they done bought the shirt at that point. I didn't say that. I might have said that, but I didn't mean it. But
David Hero did not say that.
David Hero did not say that. That was definitely something Damian Nelson said. And so, but fast forward years later, I see Kofi Kingston with a shirt that says "I can fly." So I had to go tell him that story. He goes, "Oh, they didn't tell me that." I was like, I guess it was the superhero thing that more kids, were into my gimmick. Not my gimmick was just a kid-friendly gimmick, but they were afraid really that kids would jump off shit. And I was like, okay.
Well, yeah, and I mean, how many wrestling fans are in Jamaica are going to buy that shirt anyhow? So,
what?
Well, everybody wants to be a superhero, right? Exactly. They wear the Shane Helms shirt. You're not going to sell a bunch to Jamaican kids. They're not going to,
Shane, help me.
I just love the crickets. There are so many crickets just hopping around right now.
You absolutely lost me that time, Dave. I don't know what underhanded thing you were driving at.
Isn't Kofi Kingston Jamaican? His gimmick is Jamaican, right?
When he first started.
Yeah, so maybe they weren't worried about that happening, but people want to put on a cape and a towel and jump off a building and think they can fly.
Man almighty. I thought they took Bill O'Reilly off the air. So, folks, this is the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime. We are live Thursday night on Fight TV. It's September 10th. Damian Nelson along with David Hero and Shane Helms. We are also live on our social media channels, that being YouTube, Twitter via Periscope, and also Facebook.
We have about 17 minutes to get through two more shows.
Hey, go to the chat. Damien, do you see Tigger 2169? What does that mean?
Well, I was avoiding putting that comment on air, Shane.
What does it mean? Tell the people what it means and then take a guess.
Dave, you know?
I don't know. I'm not wearing my glasses. I can't see anything.
It says it smells a Prince song. Cream.
Oh. So that being said, manscaped.com, use promo code PWR, and you're going to save 20%, and they have a certain cream you can use on that. That was my cue. That's what that was. Yeah. Manscaped.com, promo code PWR, 20% off, and they have everything you need to be silky smooth and smelling fresh.
Exactly. Manscaped does a great job sponsoring this show. They sponsor Highway to Helms. So do us the favor, and not only do us the favor, do yourself a favor. Shave your balls. Shave your balls and save yourself some money. Because if you're like me, cash rules everything around me.
Your balls will thank you. But what does that mean, Cream?
I literally just said it.
So get this. So I wore the
Cash rules everything around me. It's a Wu-Tang.
Oh!
I couldn't have lobbed that any easier.
Hey, so listen to this. I wore the Manscaped shirt to the store. I never looked to see what was on the back of it.
What does it say?
Detail.
Your balls will thank you.
Yes.
Yep.
Fantastic. Well, gentlemen, even though we are running long, thank you for your discussion about AEW Dynamite last night and also AEW All Out this past weekend. You're right, Shane. We've got about 20 minutes of show left, but we do need to, for the purposes of me and for Dave, who's now in second place, get an update from the man they call Meathead about how I am continuing to dominate in the 2020/2021 Pro Wrestling Report Fantasy Draft. Read them and weep.
Hello again, I'm the man they call Meathead with a PWR draft update. Now we have those 4 pay-per-views in a row all done, lots of points are scored, and like creepy Uncle Joe Biden on the campaign trail, I can feel David Hero breathing on my neck. Here are the current totals brought to you by the accounting firm of Dewey, Cheatham & Howe. The man they call Meathead, myself, 1,350 points. Dave Hero, only 20 points behind now at 1,330 points. He scored a lot of points having the main event, 3 pay-per-views in a row. Damian Nelson at 1,155 points. He tied a season high with 380 points at the AEW All Out pay-per-view. He's holding in the middle, even though we all know he is on the left. Drew Baydala, 960 points, and Linda Kay with a very smart play to get her closer to the mix. 900. She had that Orange Cassidy play right before the pay-per-view started. Now, the next pay-per-view that'll score points will be WWE's Clash of Champions on September 27th. Don't forget to check out PWR today, Monday through Friday, with myself and everybody from the PWR family. For the PWR Draft, I'm the man they call Meathead. Thanks for stopping by. So long, everyone.
Look at that smile. Look at that smile on that book.
1,155 points, the single greatest points scored over the course of a 2-3-4 week period in the draft so far. The man who has won time and time and time again. You see, that's his first place. The Nelson family dominating again.
Yeah.
I'll leave that in a frame for your reference.
Check this one out.
It's true. It's true. It's true.
Oh, nice. that thing's about the size of the thimble on the Monopoly board.
Let's move on, gentlemen, and let's talk about Thanksgiving.
What, we got 3 minutes left?
Yeah.
I'm glad Shane's watching the time. Let's move on to NXT, and for the interest of time, I want to talk about the big story to come out of NXT this past Tuesday night. It was their second Super Tuesday, and it was the finals for the open, or the vacant rather, NXT Championship. It was Finn Balor versus Adam Cole. Ladies and gentlemen, the winner and new NXT champion, the endorsed Finn Balor. Dave, if that would have happened on a pay-per-view, I would be actually in number 1, first place in the draft. Finn Balor's your champion again. What'd you think?
I love it. I think Finn Balor is definitely the right guy to go with, especially if you're going to bring Karrion Kross back into the mix where you can have Karrion Kross against the Demon. I think that is tremendous money down the road for them. And you know what? Finn Balor's been stuck in purgatory neutral for quite a while. Now he finally is on top of the brand, and I think it's going to be a game changer because now he's going to have a whole list of babyface and heel challengers for his championship.
Finn Balor, the new NXT champion. Shane Helms, what do you say?
Love it. Great match. You know, those guys are super talented, so I enjoyed the match. You know, they put in some time, long. You know, it ate us some time, but it was good. Right call with Finn Balor. Glad to see him back on the top. You know, I think it does a lot for the brand, the NXT brand.
Dave, this should satisfy you because, as you said, Finn Balor's been in quote-unquote purgatory. I wouldn't go that far, but perhaps you've made this point several times before. Perhaps he was in those shadows or somewhat in purgatory for this moment, this past Tuesday night, where the tournament would lead to him becoming champion again.
Yeah, and I thought it was great how they showed Cole and Balor two sweeting each other like respect. And I think that made it an even bigger victory for Finn Balor because Adam Cole has been Mr. NXT for the last couple, 2 or 3 years. It's almost like he's like, yeah, okay, you were the better man, which now lets Cole go off and do something else, if that may be what it's going to be. And then, you know, Finn Balor going to be the top guy, I would like to believe, all the way through WrestleMania.
Probably, and it wouldn't be NXT. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the amazing, I don't want to call it a performance, but just the amazingness of my fellow neighbor, the New Jersey native, Mr. Robert Stone.
Taking his nap on top of the cage.
You know, in a world where managers are relatively non-existent, especially outside of AEW, he has...
I was going to say, AEW's got 15 of them.
Yeah, he has tremendously performed in that role. And it shows you, I don't think he actually ever got the credit he deserved as to how brilliant a performer he is. Now, by his own admission, even though he was a former teacher, he may not be the most brilliant person on the planet. But as far as wrestling goes and the street smarts and the smarts overall, I say that in jest, he is amazing and was underrated for a very long time. He continues to outshine a lot of the other stuff we're seeing on NXT each week.
Yeah, he's a great character. He's a great character. It's kind of a throwback, which I appreciate, and I think longtime fans appreciate. But he brings a new modern flavor to a throwback act. So I like it a lot. Always entertaining. If he's there, you know you're going to get something special. I never feel like he's calling it in, just doing traditional things. You know, so I'm enjoying all of his stuff. You know, and two, he added something to that match. You know, I mean, that was a really good cage match. You know, if we're referring to Mercedes Martinez against Rhea Ripley. What a great way to main event NXT. Mercedes hadn't even really been there all that long, and to already be closing the show, main event, the cage match. I thought that was a really impressive showing by the ladies there.
I agree. I thought it was a super solid match, and you know, Robert Stone is not afraid to make himself the ass of the joke every week. A lot of people won't do that because they feel it buries their character. But I mean, Robbie buries himself all the time anyhow. So he does a great job of that. And yeah, that was a solid main event. And you're right. You know, Mercedes Martinez hasn't been there that long, and that was the match I think that now Rhea Ripley needed to jumpstart herself to get back into that title picture.
You know, before we move on to our final show to cover of the week, I want to talk about one other thing. We had 2 big reveals this week from 2 big stars in wrestling. First being that of Cody from AEW, who revealed that he is going to be hosting a new show on TBS, judging rather, along with several other people, including the iconic Snoop Dogg, the Go Big show, which is a bit of a talent show that doesn't feature any singing or any dancing. That show coming soon on TBS. And then basically almost on the same day, within 24 hours of each other, John Cena announces that he is going to be hosting a remake of Wipeout on the same network, TBS. Now, this makes a ton of sense for Cody, right? Because AEW, part of the TNT networks, if you will, I think is that CBS Viacom? I don't know who owns them now, but it's a bit unusual now, though, for John Cena to be appearing on TBS because that's well outside the WWE NBC Universal realm. So, Dave, how did this strike you? 2 big announcements, 2 mainstream appearances on brand new shows, if you will, for both John Cena, who's been somewhat distant from the wrestling business as of late, and Cody, who's the mainstay of AEW.
You know, there's a lot of rumor and innuendo that Cody was actually going to be working with Stephen Amell on his new wrestling show. I think it's called Heels. He's working on. That's why he was taking time off. I was as shocked as anybody to see him now doing a game show on TBS. I think that's great for him. It's even better for AEW to get that kind of a rub. And John Cena right now is John Cena. He's no longer under that WWE umbrella. He's kind of like The Rock right now. He is free to do what he wants because really Vince has no currency over him to stop him. He's become a megastar on his own, and good for John Cena. It's going to be interesting to see how much they acknowledge him as WWE superstar on a TBS TNT channel.
Shane, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was interesting that the show that Cody's on, that they didn't have Paul White on that show. I mean, it just seems like an obvious fit.
Thought about that too.
But yeah, I mean, everything Dave said, I agree with all that. You know, Cena's a big star. I don't know how you ignore that, him as a WWE, former WWE champion and stuff like that. But if an edict comes along and say, "Hey, don't mention it," then they're not going to mention it. But good for them. I'll check both those shows out at least once.
You have to, right? No,
I don't have to, but I will. I'm not going to be watching Dancing with Stars. I know that yet.
Wait,
come on, Carol Baskin.
Oh my God,
she's going to be on there.
Oh my God, wait a minute, hold on. This is breaking news for me. Is Carol Baskin really on Dancing with the Stars?
Absolutely, yes.
No, that's not. Please, that's not true.
And here's the beauty of it: she'll be in Tiger Prince every night.
I'm celebrating the smoke.
Yeah, I can tell. Looks like it. You're smoking. But yeah, Carol Baskins, every outfit she'll be in is going to be in tiger and leopard skin.
She's really on Dan.
Yeah.
She killed her husband. I mean, there's no doubt. And fed him to tigers. And which, by the way, is there a better way out than that?
Yeah. Fucking me.
Yeah.
Tell
me one, please.
A better way than getting eaten by a damn tiger?
No, there's no way. There's no evidence.
Oh.
Well, no, not that way. No. Yeah.
I thought you meant that is there a better way to die than getting eaten by a tiger? I'm like, yeah.
Oh,
all the other ways.
Several better ways to die. As we go back, let's wrap up the ratings conversation, because as we talk about each week on the show, we start with the show that won, if you will. And while they weren't head-to-head this week, and we're not sure if they're going to be head-to-head again next week, it was AEW drawing just over 1 million viewers, their third highest rating since being on TV. Last week, they drew on 928,000 viewers. And then this week on NXT on Super Tuesday, special edition of the show, they drew 838,000 viewers, just slightly down about 11,000 viewers, which is pretty much doesn't matter to the 849 they drew last week. Gentlemen, we talked last week on this broadcast about whether the show should stay on separate nights. Seemingly by these numbers, this tells me something actually, which is, granted, AEW was coming off the heels of their big pay-per-view event, but it tells me, because AEW, I think, was also up against the NBA, this tells me that right now...
No, NXT was up against the NBA.
Okay, well, thank you, Dave. That actually changes my narrative then a little bit. Yeah. But it seems to tell me that whether same night or different nights, the clear winner in these wars, if you will, remains to be AEW. Shane, what do you say?
I think Jericho, if NXT moves to Tuesday permanently, I think AEW needs to consider that a win in the war. And since Jericho was a member of the actual original Monday Night War, I think he has to claim victory.
Well, that's a tremendous point. On both sides, by the way. In 98, he was in WCW. 99, he comes over to WWE.
And then they win.
Yeah. He's undefeated.
He's the demo god. All right, well, that's out of the way, gentlemen. Let's move on to
him and Dustin. Dustin can play a part of that too, though.
That's also true. Let's move on to Impact Wrestling. This past Tuesday night, the main event was Eric Young getting a win over Tommy Dreamer. October 24th is Bound for Glory, and it looks like we're solidly on our way to building for that show, and this may be one of those matches that we end up seeing at Bound for Glory. So I'll just freeball it for both of you, starting with you, Shane. Your thoughts on that match, the main event, and also the rest of the Impact Wrestling broadcast from this past Tuesday night on Access TV.
What was the big pay-per-view Impact just had that was so good?
Slammiversary.
Slammiversary. Okay, that's right. So I thought it was interesting that in the main event of AEW, there was Dustin Rhodes. And in the main event of TNA Impact was Tommy Dreamer. I'm just glad to see that it's not all 18-year-olds out there fighting all the time. And to see guys like that still can perform, to go out there at that level and still do it. Eric Young is my favorite. He's just my favorite TNA performer. Just incredible. He just makes even these matches that have no fans, which TNA still, they don't have a Thunderdome. They don't have people around the ring at all. So it's deathly quiet out there. Eric Young still seems to make it as entertaining as it could possibly be. So if Eric Young's in the ring, I'm watching. And I said that about him in WWE, and I'll say it about him still.
Well, he's a world-class maniac now, Dave. What do you think? Eric Young.
You know what? Him and Tommy Dreamer was fantastic. Tommy Dreamer just gives. I mean, if you think about it, Tommy Dreamer never truly does win the big matches, but he always gets more over. I mean, he went out there to defend everyone's honor in TNA Impact Wrestling, did a great job. Him and Eric Young, it was a fight. It was a battle. It was a hardcore match. And it's something to be said, Shane, when you have Dustin Rhodes in the main event, Tommy Dreamer in the main event. It's guys that understand psychology. They know how to sell, and they work all the way through. Like both guys, you were cheering for both just because you believed in them. And for two guys that were top stars in the late 90s, now helping other younger guys get more over. And it doesn't matter if they lose or not, because they're always going to be over just because of their legendary and iconic status.
Yeah, and talent is talent. Talent doesn't need an age number beside it. There was, even when I was one of the younger guys, and in WWE, I remember they kept having talk about this youth movement, and I got heat for one time in a talent meeting, and I go, why don't we have a talent movement instead? Because they kept bringing in all these young guys, and they sucked. I was like, this isn't helping us out. I've never had anybody check my ID when I was walking to the ring to see how old I was. So I'm glad that in today's environment, and actually it happened on NXT too. Mercedes isn't young, right. I mean, she's not old. She's definitely not in Tommy or Dustin's age bracket at all. But she's spent a lot of years on the indies, honing her craft and everything. So that being said, I mean, what I was trying to say is that if you're talented, you're talented, no matter how old, no matter what your age is.
Your overall thoughts, gentlemen, on Impact Wrestling from this past Tuesday night? We saw tag team action with the Motor City Machine Guns and the Radicals. We saw several people in action. It was a lot of, it's interesting, before I get your thoughts, on AEW, on NXT, on Impact each week, and to a degree, I think you could say Raw and SmackDown, we're seeing a lot more wrestling in this pandemic era. And I, for one, am not sick of it, because I think each of the three companies are giving us different wrestling. You're getting the manufactured wrestling with WWE, which I'm fine with. You're getting the pretty much more genuine, authentic wrestling with AEW, which I'm fine with. And you're getting something in between the two with Impact Wrestling, which I'm also fine with. This, as difficult as these times have been, they're becoming good times for us as viewers. Shane, we'll start with your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed all three shows. It wasn't like I hated anything. There's a couple promos on all three shows that weren't good, and I wish that, especially on some of these taped promos, that they would just redo them, give the talents another chance. Say, hey, I think you could do that better. It is possible to do that. But as far as the in-ring, there was a lot of good stuff. And I mean, Impact, they're really against the wall in terms of, like I said, they're the ones that don't have any sound out there. But they're still putting out a good in-ring product. The tag team with the Motor City Machine Guns and the Rascals, I mean, they were just out there killing it. That was really good. So, and I enjoyed. There was a women's match. The new girl, Tasha Steele, I believe her name was. I thought she had a good showing of herself with Talia Valkyrie. So there was a lot of good stuff. I missed Wrestle House. I got to say that Wrestle House.
I don't think it was on this week.
I know. That's why I missed it.
That's why I missed it.
I mean, again, right there, Kobe.
As the host, I'm here to fill in for the audience. Those who may not have watched Impact, they may have thought you missed it, but that it didn't broadcast. So I'm sorry for filling in that blank.
Yeah, but
was he now? Was EC3 on? I don't think I saw him.
No, they did a skit where Moose was looking for him and went back to his old, I guess, high school coach or something like that, high school football coach. So at least they kept that storyline going. That was entertaining. Johnny Swinger makes me laugh every single time. I thought Brian Myers and Willie Mack had a good showing. I actually had to send Brian Myers a clip when he got spine busted and he screamed like Norman Smiley in the air.
Yeah,
Norman
I rewound that like 10 times. I was just laughing my ass off at it. So it was really good. I mean, I enjoy what they're doing.
If you look at the people that have left WWE, you have the most professional wrestler, Brian Myers. You have the best man, Miro. You have Eric Young has now become the TNA World Impact Heavyweight Champion. FTR is the AEW Heavyweight Tag Team Champions. Zach Cardona is obviously being featured more on AEW.
Ryder.
Zach Ryder, or
Matt.
yes, Matt Ryder. And then you have Heath with Rhino, which is what everybody wants to see anyhow. It seems like everybody is doing their own thing and looks and seems to be a lot happier than they were 6 months ago.
Interesting thing here. It's full disclosure. While we're doing this broadcast live, I'm also watching back NXT from this past week, and I was unaware of this. I know NBC launched a network, their online network called Peacock, and apparently there is a ton of WWE content being shown on there. A lot of the stuff that we saw on Fox Sports Network. So it's interesting the expansion, I guess, of their programming. We've seen that. The WWE Network now has a free tier, if you will, which a lot of content is on as well. And it's interesting that they're expanding their reach a little bit. And this really goes to show the big deal that they have, not just with NBC Universal, but also with Fox. Because as I talked about just a moment ago, a lot of those specials that they just showed that are going to be on Peacock have already aired on one of the Fox networks during this pandemic with the absence of sports and all other stuff. I'm rambling a little bit, but it's just amazing the further reach, if you will, that WWE broadcasting is getting.
Yeah, they definitely don't stop growing. They got, that's not in Vince's wheelhouse to ever say, hey, this is enough. He's always going to keep trying to branch out.
Well, gentlemen, before we go, we want to remind you that right now and anytime you can use the code PWR at manscaped.com. We talked earlier about it. But
PWR 360.
Yep.
No. Pump the brakes. It's PWR for Manscaped. It's PWR 360 for collar and elbow.
Fine.
See what happens when you correct the host? Yeah.
Be that way, Dave. Yeah. I don't like your jacket either.
Wait, either?
Huh?
You don't like mine.
I turned on you earlier.
This looks good. Manscaped.com right now. They have more than just shavers, by the way. Dave, you talked about W Ball Cream, courtesy of Snoop, and all of that available there as well. Want to thank all of you who joined us socially here on the broadcast here live on Fight TV. That's FITE Fight, including we'll share some more names as well that are joining us socially. We've got on YouTube, Beat NU 3000, on Facebook, Jose Rosado. On Facebook as well, we've got Ian McNair, Michael Vante on Periscope. So thank you all of you for joining us here socially on the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime. And gentlemen, I want to end the show with a bit of a surprise, if you will. Shane, I'm still taken aback by the fact that you didn't understand one of the references we made earlier, and now I can't get that vibe out of my mind. So I want to share with you and the audience, we'll do a watch-along, our very first watch-along, if you will, which this could be tremendous, by the way, because
this could be a disaster.
If you remember in the SNL skit which is one of the greatest pieces of work ever when they did the remake of the R. Kelly interview, where he said, "Clues. I've been giving y'all clues for 30 years." We may see some more clues in this video. So are you boys ready to go a little live side by side? Watch along?
Yeah,
To
absolutely.
Introduce
I can't.
Shane to R. Kelly's She's Got.
Oh, I cannot wait for this. Go ahead.
Let me see how I do this. I've never shared my screen here.
Whoa. Make sure it's the right one.
You know what? It's going to be the right one. I'm going to go
Make sure them tabs are closed.
Chrome tab, and I'm going to. There it is. Okay, R. Kelly and public announcement. She's got that vibe. So here we go, folks.
Here's where the lawsuit starts.
It's your first time, at least in a long time, hearing that. Do you remember? And
I remember the song. I don't think I ever saw the video.
I
I just know that he looked like he dressed like MC Hammer, and he had them Kumo D glasses on.
Exactly.
That's what I got from that video.
Well, I think
somebody just mentioned he got his ass whipped in jail last week too.
He did. Yes, he did.
He did. He got that. He got that vibe.
Yeah, he got that vibe
too, right? He got beat up in jail too.
Who?
Joe Exotic.
I don't know. I don't pay attention. Anything that says Tiger King, I ignore. I don't put over shit like that, man. Shit that's that rotten like you.
But it's on this show I found out that Carol Baskin's going to be on Dancing with the Stars.
Listen, I watched Dancing with Stars for Jericho that one time.
Yep.
And I watched Alfonso Rivera do the Carlton.
Yeah.
You didn't watch Stacy Keibler?
Yeah, I watched Stacy Keibler. I was just trying to keep that on the dizzle.
Oh, gotcha. I mean, she was part of her team.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, folks, thank you very much for joining us here live on Fight TV. I got to say, it doesn't appear as if R. Kelly and having that vibe is good for viewership. We lost a few viewers during that video.
I'm one of them.
Is it too soon to be able to associate? Because we're not endorsing his actions.
Oh, it's too late. I didn't endorse anything.
You fully did. You endorsed him, Damon.
Mm-hmm.
That was a total endorsement. You played his music video on here. You literally told our audience you approve of everything R. Kelly's ever did.
No.
That's the way I took it.
Hey, don't get pissy, Nelson.
Yeah. Do you believe you can fly?
I got to consult with the press secretary on this. Kylie,
get her in there.
Come over here, Toots. Let me grab you. Folks, this is the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time. We're live on Fight TV for David Hero and for Shane Helms, the star. This is Damian Nelson, the draft leader, saying thank you so much for joining us here on Fight TV, and thank you all for joining us here every Thursday night, 7 o'clock p.m., replaying Saturday nights at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern, right here on Fight TV. Thank you so much for joining us, and farewell, everyone.